Hello everyone, my name is Ariana Akbari and this is my vlog. I am an environmental activist, designer, and builder from East Texas, and here I like to speak to you all to let you know a little bit about some thoughts that I have about wellness, well-being, and the environmental movement, and sometimes a little contemporary politics or news as well. So today's episode is going to be on grief, navigating grief, understanding the role that hope plays in grief, and also realism. So sort of, I guess, like the elephant in the room as well right now is that we did just have elections in America, in the good US of A, and Donald Trump was reelected, and he got like all the swing states, kind of like a big deal. And a lot of people have a lot of varying takes on that. Mine is generally that I don't think that people are very good or are necessarily very smart. And I know I always get in trouble whenever I say things like that, but I kind of think it's true. And like beyond that, of course, like there's so many reasons like people make decisions or whatever, but as for me, I certainly did not, have not, and will never vote for intentionally someone who like hires prostitutes or like verbally considers women to be like disposable, or like is a felon. I'm not like huge on felons. I kind of like follow the rules. So yeah, that's for me. But anyway, so I guess like I bring that up also because like in the environmental movement and like anything dealing with like people or like anything, you're going to experience an emotion that you will eventually come to recognize as being grief, right? And grief is kind of like a manifestation of sadness, right? It's understanding that like something that you had has been lost, and whether that was a real thing that you had that was lost, whether it was an idea, which I think happens a lot of the time, that's what grief is by our definition. And I've been doing this meditation lately to kind of like resolve grief, because I found personally that like I had so much grief just like from varying things. And I think the pandemic caused a lot of grief, right? We like lost so many social connections. We lost so many hopes of what we thought our lives might be. And I still think that we are reeling from that and have never collectively like processed that, among other like things that would cause grief, right? And I've been doing this meditation about grief, which says that grief, it only exists because of hope, right? And so there was a hope that you had in the grief that wasn't met to a large extent, right? And so what I've been doing personally is I've been like recognizing like where it is that I feel grief, like about what subject do I feel grief. So let's say, okay, I feel grief about America and their decision to like elect a certain person, right? And then I trace that back to me, right? Because I understand that the problem of my own emotions deal with me, okay? And that's on emotional maturity. But so then I think like, oh, what is the hope that I had there? And the hope I had was for like people to make decisions, I guess for like women, right? I wanted people to make decisions from like a place of goodness. And I don't think they did, right? And so like there's a grief there, but the grief there starts with a hope. And this can happen with anything, right? So like I have grief that they're building like a huge ammonia plant, or that like someone died at the plant after falling 65 feet, right? And then the hope there is that I had a hope that our governing officials would make decisions that benefit the community. And that was an unrealistic hope. So that brings me to understanding realism in the environmental movement and beyond, right? Because again, with this election, a lot of environmentalists were talking about like, oh, for like us to have a fighting chance, like Kamala has to get elected, right? And for me on the ground, like the Biden administration like increased exports greater than any before, right? And so for me, again, like there's been this realistic portion of understanding that the reality of the situation is like very dark. I don't know. But I guess like, I don't know really what I'm trying to get at with this realism. I guess like it kind of ties into this idea of like grief and hope and understanding like the reality, because like if you understand a little bit more of the reality, like you can't get your hopes up too much and then you can't experience so much grief. Yeah. So that's what I have today. I have like a few random quotes that I wrote here on this little piece of paper. So I think like for me, I like to let people, two things. One, I like to call people out, right? Or I like to like speak my opinion, because usually my opinion is generally educated and it's thoughtful and it's like coming from a place of goodness, right? And if speaking that opinion causes people to feel discomfort because of like their own choices that they've made or because of their own whatever, then like I think that that's something that I think people need to do. I think like allowing other people to sit with the discomfort of the consequences of their actions is like really important in all things in communication, in standing up for yourself in the environmental movement. And I think kind of going along with that, I have this quote written here that I think about a lot. It's from a book that I read called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I read this when I was in high school and it's still one of my favorite books. And it like there's a quote from it which has probably been a quote before, but it says that knowledge can be taught, but wisdom must be learned. And I think a lot of people out there still have some wisdom to learn. And I think the best way to do that is just to let them experience things for themselves. Like let them fail, let them understand like and feel the discomfort of their actions, and let them not allow me to validate their bad decision making, because I will not. And yeah, that's all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching. My next video actually is going to be, I've started to learn how to do affiliate links, and so I'm going to start making some like brand videos for you guys to see like some of the brands that I definitely like love and vouch for, and to share them with you. So, and with like some discount codes and like stuff like that, like a proper influencer. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Ariana Akbari and can't wait for that. Bye. Links down below for different things. Maybe I'll put a Patreon in there. I don't know. New videos every weekend. Sorry, this outro is so long. Yeah, I might be doing new videos on Sunday instead of Saturday, because for some reason it's just like easier for me. So love you so much. Thank you for watching. Bye.